Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to today's stream, the last summer break stream I'll be doing until, of course, we're back racing for the 2023 Formula 1 season next weekend at Zandvoort for the Dutch Grand Prix. The summer break really has gone by quite quickly. It felt like the last race in Spa was a week or two ago, to be honest, to me. It has flown by way quicker than other summer breaks have in the past. But yeah, in today's stream, which is going to be, in terms of length, as it's going to be similar to the stream that I did last week, which I think was just over an hour. What we're going to be doing today, simply, is looking at a couple of the big, the big issues to settle before the end of the 2023 season, which is two very important battles in the Constructors Championship, such as the main headline, obviously, or the, what I've obviously, what do you call it? With the title of this stream, obviously got into the battle for third in the championship between Aston Martin, Ferrari, and McLaren, and I will get into this stream why I personally believe that McLaren will catch and beat those teams, even though they are still quite far behind in 5th place. And then, once we've gone through that, we're also going to get into the battle, very important battle, for 7th in the championship between Williams, Haas, Alfa, Romeo. I haven't included AlphaTauri in that battle because I think AlphaTauri are realistically just too far behind. AlphaTauri last in the championship, of course, on 3 points, and Williams, even though in 7th they're only 8 points clear, realistically AlphaTauri I don't think will be scoring 8 more points this season. So yeah, I'd be very surprised if AlphaTauri got into that fight, but you never know. Maybe I'll be proved wrong if they can magically at some race score a bag load of points. But yeah, that is what we're going to be getting into in today's stream. There is a poll running in the live chat where I've asked a question to you guys. Who do you think will finish third in the Constructors' Championship? Will it be Aston Martin, who are currently in third? Will it be Ferrari, who are, I think, only 5 points behind the Aston Martin team? Or McLaren in 5th? Let me know in that poll. And yeah, by the end of the stream, obviously, I'll finish up the poll and we'll have a look at the result and see what you guys think will happen. Great to see all of you guys. Hope you're all doing well. Hope your summer break has gone, great. Obviously, a few more days left until we are back in for the Formula 1 season. And yeah, no matter what time zone you're in, part of the world you're from, hope you're all having as best a day as possible. Do want to say quickly, before we get properly into the stream, do bear with me a bit today in this stream, because I did go for a night out on the town, put it that way, last night, and I am not massively hungover, but I am a bit hungover. I'm not feeling physically that great, and I've also not had a ton of sleep, so yeah, just bear with me if I'm not seeming, in fine fettle at any point during this stream. But yeah, let's get into the main topic of today's stream, which is, again, the battle for third in the championship. But before we get to that, let's quickly look, when it comes to, previewing the rest of this season, let's look at the current Constructors' Championship standings and go through the teams and what their battles are, if any, for the rest of the season. So for Red Bull, of course, it's a matter of time until they win the Constructors' Championship. They will probably win the Constructors' title in October, probably at one of the North American races, either the, US or Mexico City Grand Prix in late October. That's my expectation. On the Constructors' side, I think they can win it earlier in the Qatar Grand Prix, which is in early October. But yeah, realistically, it will probably be late October for Red Bull. Mercedes in second place. They are 51 points clear, I think they are, of Aston Martin. Quite incredible season Mercedes have had, despite having a car that is fundamentally still quite, broken for what they're wanting. And I think they've really, results-wise, with, again, what is not really a good car, I think they have really delivered a very, very good season. And for them to be that far clear of Aston Martin by the halfway point of 2023, it just shows you that with Mercedes, I think, as I said in my mid-season review, if they just had the car, to fight with, say, Red Bull, then they would be able to be fighting for the championship, because the production, the trackside production, is still clearly there. And the reason I've not included Mercedes in the topic of who's going to finish in third when it comes to, Aston Martin, Ferrari, and McLaren is because I think Mercedes are just too far clear. And because of their driver lineup, which is the strongest on the grid, I just don't see how Mercedes can be caught. It would take something quite phenomenal for Mercedes to be caught by Aston Martin, Ferrari, or McLaren. Even if one of those teams, magically start going a few tenths of a second quicker, I still think it would be quite an incredible thing for Mercedes to not finish in second place. And then, again, the battle for third, Aston Martin, Ferrari, and McLaren. Aston Martin have done very well, considering their last 3-4 races. They've done very well to hang on to third in the championship, because really, given how much quicker Ferrari have been, really in the last 3-4 races, Ferrari should be in third place. They really should be in third place. And not only in third place, but quite a few, points clear of the Aston Martin team. Ferrari definitely have contributed to that, though. Ferrari, there's still been a couple races here or there where they've not got the maximum points out of a Grand Prix weekend because of, some incompetence here or there, which still sadly exists within the team. But obviously, Aston Martin at the final race before the summer break at the Belgian Grand Prix produced a brilliant result. I think 5th and 9th, I think it was, for the Aston Martin team, which was definitely unexpected for me going into that particular Grand Prix. Ferrari, I think, definitely have let Aston Martin off a bit, not massively, because I think we do have to give Aston Martin credit. They still, even with their drop-off in pace, they've still produced on their, with their trackside operation, they've still produced pretty well. So we can't, we can't blame Ferrari too much for being in fourth place. I think Ferrari being in fourth really is more fundamentally to do with the car than it is to do with the performance of the team trackside. And then McLaren in P5, 93 points behind the Aston Martin team. Does sound a lot, and I mean, it's nearly 4 race wins worth of points they are away from Aston Martin. And it is going to take, a lot of not just great results, but consistently great results with both cars for them to get up to Aston Martin and Ferrari. But given that we have got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think 10 races officially to go in the 2023 season, I think with the driver lineup McLaren have got, that is absolutely long enough for them to be able to catch Aston Martin and Ferrari realistically before the end of the season. And of course, McLaren, since the Austrian Grand Prix, have had an incredibly quick car. And really, maybe not in Austria, but since the British Grand Prix, McLaren have had a quicker car than Aston Martin and Ferrari. Even though in Spa, they only finished in P7. That was really because of them just getting the setup of the car wrong. They just put way too much downforce on. If they had gone with the right downforce level, I think they probably would have been beating at least Aston Martin in that particular Grand Prix weekend at Spa. So yeah, McLaren looking very, very good right now. And given, as we'll get onto in a moment, they do still have quite a bit of wind tunnel time compared to the teams they're trying to catch, they've definitely got a really good chance, I think, of catching Aston Martin and finishing in third place, as we'll get onto a bit more later. Alpine are smack bang in the middle of nowhere, basically, in sixth place. Even though, teams like Williams and Haas, they've got quite a bit more wind tunnel time than Alpine will have in the second half of this year. Realistically, those teams are not going to catch Alpine. So, yeah, Alpine, I'm pretty confident will finish in sixth place. It would be incredible, though, if they slipped down even further. Williams and Haas level on points. Williams, of course, higher because their best race result, I think, was P7 with Alex Albon in Canada, and Haas's best race result was, what was it? Was it a 9th, I think, possibly? Or Haas, or an 8th? I can't remember exactly what it was. But yeah, level on points and still a very hotly contested battle between those two teams. 9th, Alfa Romeo, of course, last season were having a great year. Were up in and did finish 6th in the championship, but they're now really struggling. Still a couple points only behind Williams in 7th, but Alfa Romeo have had quite a struggle this year. And then AlphaTauri, again, at the back, and I don't think realistically they will be able to catch the teams ahead. So, let's get on to these particular teams, and we'll start with the McLaren team. Now, as the title says, I think McLaren will catch and beat Ferrari and Aston Martin for third in the championship. My reasons for this is not exactly complicated, but I think absolutely you guys will see my logic, let's say, as to why I think McLaren will get the job done. So the first reason, obviously, is right now, and this will probably remain the case for the rest of the season unless Aston Martin and Ferrari bring a massive upgrade that really changes around the pecking order. McLaren not only are quite a bit quicker than those two teams right now, but it is probably going to remain that way for the rest of the season. Again, unless Aston Martin and Ferrari bring a massive upgrade that, gives them an extra half a second, say, compared to where they are now. So, McLaren, they've got the pace advantage for the final 10 races, which is obviously the most important. If you've got the faster car, that's the best place to start from if you're going to catch a team that is 93 points ahead of you. But there's two other reasons that really are a great backup for McLaren in this fight to finish in third. One of them is the current wind tunnel allocation for all of the teams. Now, the allocation here, as shown, this was reset on June the 30th, which is why certain teams are in certain positions that don't currently match their Constructors' Championship position. For example, Alpine are a position higher, and Williams are, 2 positions lower. Alfa Romeo, 2 positions higher, vice versa. But if you look at McLaren, they have 10% more wind tunnel time than Ferrari and 15% more than Aston Martin. Now, of course, the teams will want to concentrate on next year's car, but given financially, the fight for third is very important, and it is also good to set or to finish the year on a high going into next year to try and maintain that positivity. I do think those 3 teams will still try to develop a bit, say, for the next couple months before they, fully commit to 2024. So even if Aston Martin and Ferrari bring one final big upgrade, McLaren probably have enough, you'd imagine, enough budget, and with the wind tunnel allocation they've probably got enough for an extra upgrade compared to Ferrari and Aston Martin. For example, if Ferrari and Aston Martin are just going to bring one final upgrade, then McLaren, in theory, probably have enough financially to bring two between now and the end of the season. And that could be not only with the pace advantage they already have, but that extra ability to continue to even further develop this 2023 car could really, help their effort and spring them even further clear of those two teams and make it a lot less tricky, a lot less stressful for, McLaren having to secure certain results, obviously better results compared to Aston Martin and Ferrari. So that is a big advantage for McLaren for the second half of the year. But also, another big advantage is that McLaren have a fantastic driver lineup. And even though Lando Norris has outqualified and outraced Piastri at almost every single race this season, the average pace difference, at least in qualifying this year, has been pretty close. As we can see here, Lando Norris, from the data I found, is so far this year about 0.2 of a second quicker on average than Piastri. When you compare that to the difference between Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo back last year and even in 2021, obviously it was a massive difference in comparison, and that did definitely cost McLaren in 2021 and 2022 probably getting a position higher in the championship, because Ricciardo was, just so far away from Norris on pace most of the time. Piastri, though, thankfully, is, still slower, but not that much slower. And for a debut season, you'd have to say Piastri's pace compared to Lando is very impressive from the young Australian. And, not just when it comes to the battle for third, obviously, are McLaren a threat to the current third place holder of Aston Martin, but also Ferrari are a threat. And as we can see, their two drivers very closely matched. In fact, these two, as you can see, Leclerc, so far in qualifying this year, on average, 0.1 of a second quicker than Carlos Sainz. That is the closest gap between two teammates in qualifying out of any team so far this season, I'm pretty sure, from the data I saw earlier. So that is a massive advantage, not only for McLaren to have, but also for Ferrari to have. And why is that? It's because, as I have talked about a lot this season, Lance Stroll is just way too slow and is lagging severely, quite severely at times, behind his teammate Fernando Alonso. And on average, from the relevant data we could find, Stroll is about 0.4 of a second on average slower than Fernando Alonso, which, it's not the worst gap that I've seen between teammates in Formula One history, never mind this season. But it's just not enough from Stroll. And you have to remember, with Fernando, he's not, that quick of a qualifier. His, real strength is the races. That's where Fernando produces his best pace. Qualifying, I think most of the time he does, well, but he's not as consistently great as your, Hamiltons, Verstappens, Norris's, Leclerc's, Russell's, drivers like that. So, it's not like Alonso is the best qualifier on the grid. He also, similar to Stroll, has that weakness of not being, some of the time, not that quick when it comes to pace over, a single lap. But that is really, from Aston Martin's perspective, that is really going to cost them in the rest of this season, because even if their car does improve a bit, they've only got one car able really to fight consistently the Ferrari team or the McLaren team, and that is Fernando Alonso, of course, because Lance Stroll has, a lot of the time when he has been slower than Fernando, not only has Fernando been a lot quicker, but they've been in completely separate races. A great example of that was Canada, where Fernando was only a few seconds away from winning the race. Lance Stroll finished in 9th place and was, I think, like nearly a minute or maybe even over a minute behind his teammate. There was, other races this season. Baku, where Alonso was in 4th, and I think Lance Stroll was it 7th, but, was still, in terms of time on track, very, very far behind. You had Austria, where Alonso finished in 5th, and Lance Stroll, I think, was it 9th or 10th? Can't remember exactly, but again, time on track, Stroll so far behind his teammate. So, really, when it comes to this fight, it's one car for Aston Martin versus the 2 cars from Ferrari and the 2 cars from McLaren. And again, that is a massive disadvantage for the Aston Martin team. And I would say the most critical area that will decide who finishes in 3rd is not necessarily who just has the quicker car, because you do need some luck to go with that, plus you need the drivers to deliver consistently in the races as well. And even though I said it is a few minutes ago I said first and foremost you do need to have a car quick enough, and preferably the quickest car in a particular battle for a position. But in this battle, given it is going to be so close, and it already is between Aston Martin and Ferrari, what is really going to be the most important thing is the fight between the drivers. And again, Aston Martin at a clear disadvantage, and if Ferrari can just limit their mistakes and McLaren can deliver race weekends like we saw at Silverstone and in Hungary on a consistent basis, then, Aston Martin, I think, really have no, say, realistic chance of finishing in 3rd. Not saying they are not going to finish in 3rd, because, we don't know. They might turn up with an upgrade at the next Grand Prix, which really accelerates them, no pun intended, up the field. But it's going to take something quite monumental, I think, for them to hold on to 3rd place, because Fernando Alonso is a great driver, but he can't do it all on his own. He needs help, whether that's, a much improved car pace-wise, or Lance Stroll actually performing to a consistent, decent standard that you would expect of him, given that we already know he's not Fernando Alonso's level. So, yeah, we will see whether Stroll can step up, whether Aston Martin as a team on the technical side will step up and improve this car. From what I've heard, Aston Martin are reportedly going to bring an upgrade to the Dutch Grand Prix. How big that upgrade is, though, I have no idea. There was an upgrade they brought at Spa that it was made to seem like it was a big upgrade, when actually, in reality, once we saw the upgrade, it was a very minor one. It was just a very minor tweak to the floor, which, is not really going to give you that much extra lap time, maybe a 1/10 of a second around, the longer tracks out there. But, yeah, Aston Martin, I think, unless, those 2 things really come off for them, again, massive pace gain through upgrades, or Stroll actually performing to a good standard, then I think Aston Martin will lose 3rd in the championship. As I said with Ferrari, if they can cut the mistakes out and limit them to, just not obviously cut them out completely, because that is unrealistic. for any team, never mind the Ferrari team that, of course, makes, so many mistakes. But if they can, only make a mistake that costs them points or certain amount of points, if they can only do that, say, once every 4 or 5 races, as opposed to once every 2 or 3, then they would probably put themselves there with a really good chance of finishing in third, which would be, even though I know it's the Ferrari team, it would be a good save from them, because fundamentally this car just isn't that good of a car. I know they finished on the podium in Spa. I think, to be honest, that was... the car definitely was suited to the track, but I definitely do think that Charles Leclerc and his performance as a driver really helped at the Belgian Grand Prix. Fundamentally, this car just isn't very good, not very consistent. The drivers still complained about it quite a bit, with them obviously suffering with not only tyre degradation, but lack of consistency when it comes to the grip of the car on different tyres at different times of a Grand Prix. So, again, third in the championship would be a very good save for the Ferrari team, and would be, at least for them, ending the season on a positive compared to how they ended last season, and maybe, you never know, they can turn that into a better 2024. But for me, McLaren are the team that will finish in P3 for the reasons I said. The driver lineup is, I'd probably say, the second best on the grid, behind Hamilton and Russell. You can maybe let me know in the chat whether you disagree with that. Whether you think, say, Leclerc, Sainz and that driver lineup is better, say, the Norris Piastri. I could definitely see why certain people would say that, but in my view, Norris and Piastri is a better lineup. Definitely right now, I think Lando Norris, for example, is performing at a slightly better level than Leclerc, and Piastri, I think, is definitely more talented than Carlos Sainz is, and genuinely is quicker than Carlos Sainz. The driver lineup, that'll be a massive help to them. Already having the quicker car out of the 3 teams, but again, also very importantly, they do have a bit extra time in the wind tunnel allocated to them, so that if they do have any remaining budget to secure third, then they're able to bring that extra upgrade, which could give them, an extra 0.2 of a second that could maybe, just about decide it for them once we get to the final race in Abu Dhabi. It's going to be a very exciting fight, though, and even though these 3 teams, they don't struggle for money, at least McLaren don't anymore with the amount of sponsors on the bloody car. In terms of money, it is, still very important. The difference between 3rd and 5th is still quite a bit. I'm not sure exactly what the figures are for if you finish, in certain positions in the Constructors' Championship. But again, there is still significant differences between finishing 3rd and 5th in the Constructors' Championship. And it'd probably be the most important to McLaren, because I don't think McLaren have the spending power that Aston Martin and Ferrari have. Even though we have a budget cap in Formula 1, that is still important because, it secures, really, the financial future. Keeps building on the future of the team. But yeah, McLaren, I think, will win that fight. And let me go back quickly to the wind tunnel allocation, because as we get on to the next thing to preview for the rest of the season, just want to look at the bottom 4 teams, really, with this wind tunnel allocation. So you can see Alfa Romeo on 100%, Haas have an extra 5%, Williams an extra 10% compared to Alfa Romeo. AlphaTauri, of course, because on June the 30th they were last in the championship like they are now. That's why they've got the most. That is, though, a big advantage for Williams, having an extra 5% over Haas and 10% over Alfa Romeo. That is definitely a big advantage, because even though Williams have still not got, up to date facilities, as James Vowles, their team principal, has said, they're really needing a real big cash injection to get those facilities updated, to try and make up the difference to, say, teams like Alpine, McLaren, and obviously build their way towards the front of the field. But Williams, even with the budget cap as it is, which I think is around, $150 million, Williams, with the finances they've got, they can't really, they're not easily meeting that budget cap. So if Williams do somehow have an extra however million or whatever 100,000 left that can go on car development, then that would be great if they could bring one biggish upgrade before the end of the season to try and hold off Alfa Romeo and Haas. Williams have been really, in the last 4 or 5 races, they've been quicker than Alfa Romeo and Haas. The only weekend where Alfa Romeo were quicker was the Hungarian Grand Prix, where of course they had that amazing qualifying, but then and then Alfa Romeo had that disaster class of a Grand Prix. Haas, of course, have been very quick this season in qualifying, but because they can't look after their tyres whatsoever and they burn them out at like double the rate that other teams do, Haas are not reliable when it comes to scoring points. So point is, it would be great for Williams building on, building on, the great pace they have shown as of late. And let's just show some pictures of them. When it comes to this battle with Williams, I think, I think they will maintain 7th in the championship, because, again, they do have that slight bit extra time in the wind tunnel. Plus, I do think, if you look at the tracks we've got remaining on the calendar, they should suit the Williams car overall enough for qualifying and the races for them to probably score some more points before the end of the season. Obviously, Monza, Suzuka, Sao Paulo, Las Vegas, circuits like that, very high speed they'll be. And we know that Williams' car is an absolute monster in a straight line. And as we saw at the British Grand Prix, not too far before the summer break, even at medium downforce level type of circuits, they've still got a pretty good car, have Williams, because at Silverstone they were incredibly quick. They were consistently top 10 runners for the entire weekend. So overall, Williams, I think, have got the best chance of finishing in 7th. Of course, they are currently in 7th, but I think overall they've got consistently a good enough car for qualifying and the race. When you go on to the Haas F1 team again, very quick in qualifying, and definitely the quickest team consistently out of these three when it comes to qualifying. But in the races, they are consistently the slowest team. They just cannot get over this issue of managing their tires. They just cannot get over it, and they cannot fix this issue. It's an issue they've had really since like 2018. From what I can remember, 2018, 2019, it really started to become noticeable. You could arguably say it's been an issue for them ever since, they started in Formula One. But because of their close technical partnership with Ferrari, which they still have, when Ferrari have, certain parts on their car that they do supply to Haas, if those certain parts are responsible in a way for excessive tyre wear on the Ferrari works car, Haas end up suffering with the same issue. And you'll notice that Ferrari, they not always, but most of the time since 2019, the Ferrari works team has had tyre wear problems. Who else has had tyre wear problems? The Haas team. And I believe it's because of that technical partnership, and there's nothing really they can do about it unless Ferrari, fix the issue for themselves, which would lead to Haas obviously benefiting from that. So no matter what upgrades they bring, Haas, between now and the end of the season, and from what I've seen, they have got one big final upgrade coming, I think after the summer break. Don't know if it's going to be the Dutch Grand Prix necessarily when they bring it, but from what I've heard, it will be one big final upgrade. Even with that, they are not going to finish 7th in the championship because they'll still be, in the races, the slowest team because they are just killing their tyres. And with Alfa Romeo, it's kind of the opposite problem with them because in qualifying, they've just consistently not been quick. They've very rarely been in Q3. Of course, in Hungary, they were 5th and 7th. That was an amazing result for them. And that was really the weekend. If they were going to, deliver a really big weekend to help them later on secure that 7th place in the championship, Hungary really was the weekend where that should have happened for Alfa Romeo. Not saying they should have finished in 5th and 7th, but they probably should have grabbed 3-4 points, maybe even 5 points from the race weekend itself. And of course, ended up with nothing. Was a massive own goal, let's say, for Alfa Romeo. Both drivers getting a terrible start, and then obviously Zhou punting drivers off the track at turn 1. But generally, in the races this season, Alfa Romeo have been, compared to Williams, Haas, and AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, again, generally have been pretty quick. Obviously, we saw at a couple races already this season, Bahrain, Spain, Canada, their race pace was really strong. They were even as quick as Alpine in a couple of those races. So the pace on a Sunday, most of the time, is there. They just need to try and deliver more on a Saturday. If they can try and get into Q3 as much as Haas do, I think Alfa Romeo probably will finish in 7th, but I just don't trust them to actually do that. And I don't think they've got the car to be able to do it at the moment as well. So, yeah, Alfa Romeo, I think, probably will overtake Haas and finish in 8th, because I think Alfa Romeo will definitely score points before the end of the season, because, again, their car is definitely good enough for that. But, again, that Hungarian Grand Prix weekend was just such a big moment, and they blew it. They absolutely blew it. But those are, guys, the key battles remaining for the rest of the 2023 Formula 1 season. Let me know in the comments section down below, for these battles, and most importantly, the battle for 3rd, who do you think will win the battle? McLaren, Ferrari, or Aston Martin? And not only who do you think will win the battle, but why do you think those certain teams will win that battle? That's one thing I'd love to know from you guys. So make sure to comment that below. And I'll have a look to see what you guys have to say. But in terms of this live stream, given that we've not got many watching and not too many comments in the live chat, probably not going to stick around for much longer, to be honest, because I am, pretty much done with this stream. One thing to update you guys, though, is my next 2 pieces of content. And, of course, next week we will be kicking off the coverage of the 2023 Dutch Grand Prix weekend. the not weekend review should be weekend preview for the first piece of content there. Apologies about that. Yeah, I'll be doing a weekend preview on Thursday night, this Thursday coming, the 24th of August, live at 8 p.m. UK time. And then I will be doing a Dutch Grand Prix qualifying preview on Friday night, live at 6:30 p.m. UK time. The reason I'm going live at 6:30 p.m. On Friday rather than the usual time for 8 p.m. is because my team Chelsea are playing at 8 p.m. on Friday. So that's why I'm going to be streaming a bit earlier so I can finish up before that game starts. So yeah, that's why I'm doing that. And then, of course, on the Saturday, I'll be doing a practice 3 qualifying, an F2 sprint race watch along, and the race watch along on the Sunday. So if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. For everyone watching, smash the like button, and let's try and get the likes up on the stream if we can. And like I said, there's not too many comments, so I'll just go through a few of them before I head off. Hello to Brabham. Hello to all of you, by the way. Good to see you all. Vince says, I went to catch some MotoGP pre-race action. I'm back now. This summer break is way too long. Like I said at the start of the stream, hasn't felt too long to me. There's been other summer breaks where it's felt like an eternity. Probably, I think because this season has not been that exciting at all, really. I think that's, what do you call it? I think that's why, for me, at least, it hasn't really felt like it's been that long at all. What's why Parco says, vote McLaren. I don't see Aston improving anymore till next year. Would be very disappointing if that was the case, but I can see it happening. Kama Jiu-Jitsu says, morning Shazza. Just catching up here, no problem. McLaren F1 races. McLaren will get third, I think. Aston have blown their budget too early. Ferrari, well, it's the clowns. The Maccas are on a roll. Not sure about the Aston part, them blowing their budget, but yeah, maybe of... I think of probably in reality, I think they've probably just focused on next year's car a bit too early. I mean, obviously, if they turn up next year with a car that is, you know, fighting Red Bull, then that would be great. But yeah, I think, you know, I mean, we heard like a month into the season that Aston Martin were already super keen to focus on next year's car, and probably why they've fallen behind in the development race. But thank you guys for those comments. Let me finish up the poll in the chat, where I've asked you guys who will finish third in the Constructors' Championship, and you guys have voted Ferrari with 42% of the vote, McLaren second, 36% of the vote, and Aston Martin third, 21% of the vote. But guys, thank you very much for coming along to this stream. Again, final stream this is before we get back underway. And like I said, I will be back on Thursday evening at 8 p.m. UK time for the Dutch Grand Prix weekend preview. And then, yeah, qualifying preview on Friday. And then, practice 3, F2 sprint race and qualifying watch along on the Saturday. And then the race watch along on the Sunday. And when it comes to the stream on a Monday, the day after a race, the next one of those will be after the Italian Grand Prix. Because, of course, a week after the Dutch Grand Prix is the Italian Grand Prix, so I'll just wait until after that, back to back. But yeah, hope you guys can come along to all that content, and let's hope that the second half of the season is at least more exciting than the first half of the season, because we still haven't had a proper great 2023 race. So let's hope that that does happen sooner rather than later. But guys, again, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this before you go. Make sure to smash the like button before you go. It does help the channel grow. And if you want to keep up with content on my channel, make sure to follow me on Twitter at ChazHD5. That's a great place to keep up with content. And as well, make sure to join our Discord server. We've got just over 500 members of the Discord. or for that server, and it would be great to have you a part of our community, and also that Discord, as long as you're active enough on Discord. You should be able to get notifications for when I go live and upload videos and announce content plans and stuff like that. And it is a great place, the Discord server, to be notified as to what is going on with the channel and when I'm, again, going live, uploading videos, all of that stuff. But guys, thank you for this stream, and until the resumption of another Grand Prix weekend, again, starting on Thursday, this Thursday coming, 8 PM UK time, make sure you're there for the Dutch Grand Prix weekend preview. And until then, guys, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.